Good evening for another Monday evening with bees all day. How's everybody out there in bee land tonight? Well, here in the valley, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect, and it's about 75 degrees here in the valley right now. And I'm sitting here looking out the window watching it rain. So, how's everybody been doing this weekend? Anybody getting bees and how they're doing? Anybody have any swarms yet? We had some swarms here in the valley over the weekend, so it's here. It's time. It's go time. Evening, Jonathan, Jason, Segrist, how are you? Mike, Bundy, I saw you in here early. Randy, how's everybody doing? Yeah, I was feeling a little bit under the weather Friday night and feeling better, a little bit better now. So, hey, Dennis, y'all come on in here. Link is posted, pinned to the top. So come on in. Let's see who else is on here. I saw Sandy in here early. Sandy, you still on here? 21st Bee is here. Miss Beehive is here. We got a few in here right now. It's a good thing. Yep, it's always a good thing. See if we can keep some more people in here tonight. The old interweb says we have 23 on here right now, so it's a good start for the evening. Hey, Icy Mountain, Danny, how are you? I'm not contagious, so y'all come on in here. You can't catch it through the interweb. Some people swear you can, but you can't. There's Mr. Charlie.
Hey,
evening, Charlie. How are you?
Tired, but other than that.
Yeah. Yeah, Sandy, they're coming through here now. They just posted the severe thunderstorm watch. So we're supposed to get some heavy rain. It's raining right now, but we're supposed to get some heavy rain tonight.
Yeah, they said about us, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yep. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Sandy, Nancy, Dennis, and Bundy, and Mike.
Did you get bees this weekend, Charlie?
I don't know what's going on. I got to call up my man and see what finding out. I'm hoping to go down this weekend so we can come. I can come down there at your place the next weekend.
Yeah. Did you do anything with your bees this weekend?
Yeah, I most of the hives behind me there from the out at the end coming in, they've all been demaried. They finally, I was complaining about the bee population was there, but the queen just wasn't really kicking in.
Yeah.
Laying up. Hey, Brian. And they seem to be kicking in since this little bit of a warm up.
Yep.
And so, yes, or Sunday, I took and pretty much worked on them all day long, demareeing them. Did some video work, or no? Did I do anything? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I did. I popped the video out this week.
You're so busy, you don't know what you've been doing, right? Hey, good enough.
It just seemed like everything is coming in at one time.
Yeah, I know. It's all happening at once here.
That's right.
So
did a video about adding Super's foundation.
You did that. I was going to say you did that video on foundation comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did that, the first thing, and then I went down and demareed all the rest. I got one hive there that's queenless, I think. There was a small group of bees and another little nuke or whatever. I combined all that in there. It seemed to have some brood. I couldn't find the queen, but I figured go ahead and put it in there. I haven't looked at it since then.
Yeah.
Then, and then This evening I got out there and I went through the 4 original hives, the big hives that I had demoried. It had to be at least 2 weeks ago, because of the cold weather all last week. You didn't get into them hardly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I need an intern. There's a lot of people say, "Can I come up and help you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on up." But I've never seen them come up.
Yeah.
If they're really serious about it, they'd be bugging me.
Yeah, they would be. Hey, Cappy.
So I got out there this afternoon. Hey, Mike.
There's Mike with 21st Bee. Evening, Barnhill. So you're hard at work, aren't you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm at work right now. My office computer didn't like my camera, so I had to grab the laptop and come out to an abandoned office. So for all I know, I can lose signal at any time and just vanish. So just so you know.
Yeah, it kind of flickered right there. It froze a little bit. So
yeah, we'll see. I may be here for a little while. I may have to vanish if it didn't work out very well.
I understand. Hey, James.
So I went through those 4 original demorees, which the queens were really cranking on them.
Mm-hmm.
And bee population is really high. And so, luckily there wasn't, I had selected enough brood to put upstairs that didn't have any queen cell capabilities. Luckily,
well, that's good.
That
saves you a lot of work.
There was some cups there, but they made cups they were trying to make cups, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I found is nectar bound big time.
Yeah.
The nectar flow here is kicked in. I just seen dandelions today.
Hey, Ripple. Everybody's frozen.
Now, I was reading what Brian was talking about. All right, I'll look in. But anyway, so I got down into the brood chamber, and I was definitely ready to pull more brood out. There were some queen cells just getting started on some of them, but I'm shaking. It's like the water's just falling out of these frames.
Yep.
All in the brood chamber. And I'm like, goodness gracious, why didn't they put it upstairs, or she ain't laying fast enough or something?
Yeah.
And so I got it done. And, I'd have 6, 7 frames of brood I'm putting upstairs, and then take the original out, put that new comb down on the bottom, or open comb. And even that comb it was been in there too long. That's what I always have to guard against. They want to backfill that stuff with nectar.
Yeah.
So I shook it out, shook it down into the honey super. So I wound up putting, with those 2 hives, especially being population and the way they were working the nectar, I added 2 additional honey supers on top. So they got 3 honey supers right now. And then the other, those 2 they have a total of 3 each. And the other 2 that were out of the 4 got an additional honey super. And the other ones are just, I just done them the day before, yesterday.
Yeah.
So they're good for now. And then I did the thing with Mike's frames and did that video, put that in there. Hopefully I can see I don't need to feed. I think the nectar sources are coming in. They should draw that wax out quite well.
Right.
And so I kind of, it's like you're just constantly playing catch up right now.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple spots in my honey production area there. I'm trying to fill them back up with bees. I got some nukes. I'm not sure what to do there. I got one spot where I like to just drop a nuke in there at one of my nukes from the other end of the row, trying to drop it in there without letting them move back home. I'm not sure how that's going to work. And
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So then I got the other nukes, and they were flying today and everything like that. I'm like, I have got to get into them nukes that probably need to be all split and all, if anything.
Yeah.
So I need to use one or two of them to get my production area back up and running hard and strong. And the rest of them I need to split, but then I also need one of them or so to make a cell builder. At least use a nuke to make a cell builder, possibly.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. I'm steadily getting it, and each day, like it's like my hips, they get to aching. I guess stooping over and all that muscle strain.
Yep.
After a while, I get to the point where I can hardly walk. And hey, Ripper,
I'm there with you.
How are you feeling? I know you were down and out over the weekend.
I started feeling better yesterday afternoon, early evening. I put honey supers on everybody today because everybody needed honey supers. So I
did check a couple of my honey supers. I won't say they were they weren't totally full, but they were, they had like spots like that in the middle that weren't filled, but on the outer edges they were.
Yeah.
So judging by all the nectar down in the bottom, I figured, well, I'll give them more space to you got more bees there that are populating. So hopefully they'll populate up into the supers, and then they'll be handing off the nectar from one to the next to the next.
Yeah. But I went in, and all of the first super that I had on there for nectar this year, I put on almost the end of March, and it's full, side to side, top to bottom. It's full of nectar.
Really?
Yeah. So I put another super on, and the existing hives, they don't have any feed on them right now at all, and I don't feed liquid to existing hives in the spring. So
I don't normally either.
It's all nectar. And the wife got 10 packages out of this group of packages that I ordered. Mm-hmm. And the apiary is grown by 10, and all the queens are out. And we put drawn comb in. She's already laying. They're already starting to pack honey. So these bees are working. They're good and calm. So just like I like bees, nice and calm. I don't have anything to worry about with them. So,
did you see Bob Benny's movie Sunday?
Dealing with Mean Bees?
Yeah.
I saw it. It popped up on my feed. I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't watched the whole entire thing, but it's those Poline bees.
Yeah, he loves them Poline bees.
Well, them Poline bees are turned around.
They get nasty.
They got nasty.
Yeah.
And he said it came from one of the suppliers. I don't know whether or not that supplier has just a nasty streak in the bees or what.
It could. It very well could.
He said it came from, they had bees from 2 or 3 different places.
Yeah.
What are you in the warehouse, Mike?
No, I gave up and came back to the main office. I dragged the laptop. I dragged everything back in here and found the first open spot that wasn't my cubicle.
There you go.
So I'm at my CAD drawing station over here. So
okay.
With a chair that sucks, I just keep sinking. We'll grab my good chair.
All that money you're making, you need to buy yourself a good chair.
Well, he knows how to make chairs. He should just make a chair.
He can make his own chair.
I think it's funny making all this money.
You know what I had to do for a chair for my office, Mike? Because I had the same problem. The cylinder, they wear out after about a year.
Yeah.
So I went and got an architectural plans review chair.
Mm.
and I've got it sit for my desk. I have it sit all the way down. It's not even raised up. The one I have at the counter is raised up maybe 2-3 inches at the checkout counter.
Okay.
And those are just the right height for an office chair.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Amazon, $100.
Okay. Yeah, we burn through chairs here.
Yeah.
I'm hardly ever in the office to notice that my other one is good. I brought it from home, so this is probably my one that died, and I just moved it over here.
Probably.
If I just need to check a drawing real quick, I just stand here and do it, so I never sit down in it.
Yeah. So that way you don't know if it's toast or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not made for my weight load, I'm sure. I'm probably way over capacity. So
Yeah. Well, that's why I got the architectural review chair. I'm sure that regular office chairs aren't meant to hold me either.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your frames are going to go in. Some of them went in these new hives that I've got out here. They're 8 framers.
Okay.
So I'm putting them in with acorn frames, as like Charlie did. I'm putting them in with acorn, and then I've got 5 of them left, and I'm going to set up a nuke with 5 of those frames and 5 acorn frames. And I'm going to put them head to head against each other and see how it goes.
Well, if it goes bad, just don't tell me.
If they do, I won't tell you on here. Put it that way.
No, I've seen other people buying them and putting up reviews and, going in and adding extra wax to them, even though they don't need it, just as an insurance policy. So kind of waiting to see what everybody does to them and how it goes for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, if they're double dipped, I don't add wax to them. The only thing I do is take some 1-to-1 sugar water and spray on them.
Yeah.
So the bees will go to them and figure out there's wax on them. So that's the only thing I do to them.
My last ones, I don't even get to where I always forget to make a bottle of sugar water to spritz. So I ended up just taking a feeder jar and just kind of shaking it on some sides of it, throwing them in, and it's good enough. Yeah. And so far, they're working them out pretty well. I found that no matter what size the frame is, anything they're using for brood in my yard, they leave all the center holes wide open. The ones, no matter what the size is, that they're starting to store nectar in, they fill the center holes up the first time they draw it out, trying to pack more nectar in. But after I've taken my finger or the end of my J hook and just kind of poked it through and walled it out, after that, they seem to leave it alone.
Huh. So Michael wants to know what frame, Queen Bee wants to know what kind of material you use to make those frames out of.
It's a food grade ABS. Yeah,
is it virgin or is it recycled?
It's virgin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's virgin. Then we add the coloring that we add. All of our coloring has UV stabilizers in it. So that's where it picks up the UV part of it from, the color itself. So
well, that's good. I hope you're very successful at it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because so far, the ones that are in these packages, they're drawing wax out of them like crazy.
Yeah, I've had good luck. All mine, I haven't had just a couple little spots where they like to. It looks like they're trying to make drone because I haven't put any drone frames in yet. So there's a couple of them that have taken a little spot and have come off the surface and turned to try to build a kind of a free floating piece of drone foundation.
Yeah.
And I just pop it off, and after that, they just build it right back. And I'm getting ready to start putting a drone frame and everything here this coming weekend. That should kind of take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost have to put the drone frames in anymore because, you got to have something, Yeah,
I mean, I've always put them in mine, and man, it really helps with burr comb. I don't get it burr comb in hives at all. As long as you have them somewhere to put drones freely, they keep everything nice and clean and tidy.
Well, that's good. So
I noticed that on some of the hives that didn't have a drone frame, definitely they were glued, between supers, they were definitely glued with brew comb and drone comb. And others that had it in there, they still had some drone comb in between the supers, but not quite as bad.
Yeah, to keep mine from doing it this time of year, as queens are starting to go out, I'll have 2 brood frames in every single box, and that pretty well stops it. And then they'll lay in those frames a few times, and they'll start to backfill a little bit and kind of cut it back some. And I always end up just leaving them in there. Once they're in there, they pretty much stay year round. So they eventually just put pollen or nectar in it and just kind of ignore them. By the time the dearth comes around, as long as you don't stick it like right in the center of the brood nest, you've got to leave it to those outer frames.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked to what's her name, Dr. Underwood up in Penn State, and she said in order for the brood or the drones to be well fed and whatever for breeding purposes, put it in slot number 3. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And all that. So we'll see what happens.
I usually drop one in 3 and I'll drop another one in 7 at the same time. And they'll use them up for a while. Then one of them they'll kind of cut back and just store in it. And the other one they generally leave open as long as I leave it in there until the dearth. So around here, late June, my bees start slowing down, and that's when they backfill all those things up. And by late August, mid to late August, a lot of times I've hardly got a brood patch at all. They just almost completely stop. It's just more of a Russian thing, I guess, because I had Italians many, many years ago, and they just went and went. But it almost looks like wintertime. They'll cut back. You might have a little patch on one frame in late July, mid-August. And then as things cool down a little bit, they ramp back up and get back to normal and start making those wintertime bees. So I don't know if that's an area specific because of the climate I'm in, or bee specific, or both, or neither, or beats me.
Well, I was saying, noticing where the ones I had them in there was definitely a reduction of drone up on top of the frames. And I was thinking about, like you said, if you put 2 of them in there, is that where the balance is to where they don't put anything in between the
yeah, because I've read during prime mating time, naturally ones that find out just free on their own, they found 20-25% drone in them during peak. So I try to mimic that by putting 2 in it. And since I'm using all mediums, you don't have the same surface area as the deep.
Right.
So you almost have to put the 2 in it just to even get close to what the deep would be producing. It seems to work out pretty well for me. I've been doing it that way for years.
Okay, so yeah, that's what you're saying. All right, so if you put a deep drone frame in, if I'm running mediums, I got to put 2 of them in order to mimic that same space.
Yeah, that's how I do it. And I put them, in the same box. Every box that has brood in it, I put 2 in it as the flow is coming in and all the buildup's going. And then, like I say, by summer, they usually kind of seal them up. But if for some reason I have a weird one that the whole nest is shifted over one direction and that's too far into my nest, I'll just pull it by hand and put it against the wall, and that takes care of it. Because sometimes, I get those nests they'll fill 3 or 4 frames on the left, and then the other 6 or 7 that go to the right, that's where they concentrate the nest. And it kind of throws everything off. If I'm trying to, keep pollen in 2 and drone in 3, it just messes everything up. That happens every now and then to me.
I think I might try that, where I'm going to put two drone frames in and see whether or not that, if I'm doing I don't know whether you would have to put them in each box or put one in 2 out of the 3 mediums and see what happens as far as that goes.
Yeah, I guess it all just depends on your bees,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Say we were ahead here by a few weeks, and we got that blast of cold, and now we're kind of getting back to normal. We don't even have like the traditional little purple little Easter flowers you see everywhere towards Easter. We haven't seen a single one yet, which is really odd.
Crocuses?
Yeah, I just went to Memphis this weekend, and I didn't see any until I got almost to West Memphis before I went over the river.
Huh.
And we usually have those early mid March. So I don't know if the cold just kind of slowed everything back down. My
It could
Vitex
have.
my Vitex are just now starting to open up. I mean, I'm not even ready for blooms for weeks now.
Well, that's kind of the way it's here. I mean, I was expecting my bees to be at a certain point, and normally the last several years they're always gangbusters by the end of March because March is usually mild, and February is sort of mild. And this year it's been cold, and it's here it is. Well, tomorrow's the 15th of April, and they're
Yeah,
just
I was
now.
talking to one of the state bee inspectors today here in Virginia, and he had a really good take on it. He said, we had an unexpected and a weird winter, and it was longer than usual. And he said typically swarm season's already hit here in Virginia, in the southern Virginia, and up as far as probably where I'm at. It usually hits around the second week of April, and it's already hit. Well, it's been too cold for them to swarm until today. It was 83. There were a few swarms today. I got a few calls today, but it's going to get cold again tomorrow night. So that's going to slow them back down on the swarming again. And it's the beekeepers are like Charlie was saying, he expects his bees to be at a certain point. Well, I think as beekeepers, we're going to have to drop back and punt because of this cold weather and the weather patterns that we're in right now. And we may not see a swarm season until the first week, true swarm season until the first week of May, when the flow's hitting real hard, and then they're going to want to swarm. So, yeah, I mean, we need to be ready for it. And I've got 2 swarm traps out. So.
Hey, I'm going to mute for a second. I got to take this call.
Okay.
Oh, it's here.
Huh?
I'm waiting on this one. It's here.
What's that? Rain?
Thunderstorm.
Oh yeah.
They posted a warning for severe thunderstorms, and it's here. So
I don't know. Right now, I mean, I'm surprised the amount of nectar coming in.
yeah,
At least big hives were really bringing it in. The ones that I demo read up on Sunday, I didn't quite see that aspect of it. And Dwayne says the flow will kick in. They'll forget about swarming.
I hope so too, Dwayne. I really do.
I've never seen that. But anyway, I demo read these ones that have been demo read for quite a while, but they're very strong hives. They're kind of hives that I really like. And so like I say, I added 2 additional supers on top of the one that was already there. Yeah. And I kind of lifted it up and just checked the weight a little bit. And they had a little bit of weight in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm sort of behind the 8 ball here. But last week you couldn't do anything because it was ice cold and all that. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
67 mating nukes set up. About half are loaded, hatching out the rest.
That's pretty good, Mark.
Better him than me. I'll tell you that much.
We were going to set up swarm cells tomorrow, but that's not going to happen. I mean, cell builders tomorrow, but that's not going to happen.
Right.
Up in the queen yard. So we're probably not going to set up cell builders till sometime around the 29th or 30th of April. So.
Are you going to set back your queen rearing thing, or as far as cell builders?
No, I'm setting up that cell builder on the 21st or 22nd.
Well, that's going to be
It's going to be in the 70s and 50s at night all week. And then the following week, it's going to be cold as hell at night again.
So Bill, it says Stone River, he wants what do you have for glass schedules coming up? Well, you got the Queen Ring outfit, but I don't know what that's.
All right. So in May, I have nutrition classes. June, there's a honey harvesting class and a treatments class. July is the business of beekeeping. August is fall and winter prep. And September is going to be fall treatment and fall feeding. Did you get all that, Stone River?
Or go to the website, right?
Yeah, I got to get them on the website Wednesday. All that. Hey, Jack, Danette. Where are you located, Stone River? And Dwayne, did you pick up your other 6 boxes?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Glad you made it safe.
Hey, Dodd, House, how are you this evening? So does anybody in here have a topic that they would like to cover tonight or talk about tonight? Now that we've got a few people in here.
Hey, Dodd, Randy. Dwayne's going to stop in Wednesday.
Yeah, see, I saw that. Thank you, Dwayne.
Stone River around your area?
He's in Dinwiddie, Virginia, which I mean it's not a bad ride.
Where's it at?
Dinwiddie.
Where's that at?
To be honest with you, I got to look it up. If the wife were here, she could tell you.
That's a good one. I'm going to look it up.
Oh, it's down in Southeast Virginia. It's off of 85. They're near, it's just southwest of Petersburg, which is basically Richmond.
Off of 85.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's actually on Dinwiddie is right on Route 1 southwest of Petersburg. You can come off of 85 on, I think it looks like 703. What happened, Charlie?
Scared them off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nah, I hit the wrong button.
There's
Hey,
good
guys.
enough.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I hope the background noise isn't too loud. My wife's watching American Idol, but oh, she's telling me I can turn it down a little bit. Hey, you were looking for a subject. I got a kind of a funny one, and you probably have all dealt with this. I had to move some hives, and I have people that help me with things because I can't pick these things up. But the temperature yesterday was about 50 degrees, and there was almost no flight of the bees. So I'm thinking that there's probably not too many foraging bees out there that would be lost in this. And my plan was, is to move them to their new location, which was only probably about 50 feet away. It wasn't very far.
Mhm.
So the bees have been using a top entrance, so I vent my hives. They've only been using the top entrance. So my plan was move them to their new location, stick a cork in the top entrance, force them to reorient by going down to the bottom entrance. And usually I do this, I'll put a bunch of branches and things in front of the hive, but there's no leaves on any of my sticks right now. So it, it wouldn't be much for them to go through. I guess I could have hang like a paper towel or something to get them to reorient. So this morning I look out, the temperature rose to about 70 degrees. The area where I move the hives to looks like a swarm is going to happen. And I look over to where the bees got moved from. I still have a couple dead outs over there that were right next to those hives. The bees look like, or the hives look like swarms are moving in. Now, at first I was thinking they were swarms because there were so many bees. But I think what was happening is the foraging bees were going back to the original location
Yep.
and
Yeah.
going into the hive because it was the closest thing they could find. And I just thought it was so typical of the bees and how set they are when they've locked in on where their home is as to how they're I'm trying to think of the word for it, but I mean they're amazing how they can go back and find their original location, but they're also very stubborn when it comes to that too.
Yeah, that's a lot of that is did you close them up at all for any length of time when you moved them?
Well, I didn't think I needed to because there was really no flight activity yesterday. It was too cold.
Yeah, but they still remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
they got to reset that GPS that's up here.
Well, that's why. So I don't know if you heard what I was saying earlier. They were using the top entrance of the hive,
Yep.
and I plugged it up. So I put a cork. It's literally easy. I just put a cork in there, and the bees were now using the bottom entrance. And I'm thinking they're at least now using a new entrance. They had to travel somewhat to get there, and I was trying something. I know how to move hives, but I'm, saying, hey, let's try this and see what happens. And it was so textbook that they just went right back to their original location.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
They
see,
were.
that's my problem that I have right now. In that row behind me right there, there's a spot that I want to take one of my nukes and, like you say, move it 50 feet down the line and drop it there and let them and turn them into a 10 frame production hive. And it's like, okay, how am I going to do that? Here it is. It's going to be kind of warm. I don't really want to. You got to close them up for about 3 days. It seems like 3 or 4
Yeah,
days.
I mean I've moved hives where I put all the branches in front of them and they had to reorient it, and they seem to do fine. But there's always a few stragglers though that were spent the night partying out in the woods, and they
Yeah.
come back the next day and go, hey, where's my home?
Yeah.
It seems like you always get that when you move them. But I mean it almost looked like like a swarm had moved into these dead outs, and part of me kind of went, hey, that'd be cool if that actually did happen. But I think you're in Connecticut. I think we're a little early for swarm season, but I could be surprised.
I would say so up there because it's
I
pretty
would
cold.
say so too.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. It's actually been so cold I haven't done a full dive into a hive yet. I plan on doing it this Friday just because it's going to warm up again. And let me just not get surprised by that because they do that. But
Yeah.
in your situation, Charlie, I made a video recently about creating splits or creating nukes for sale, and almost describing what you're talking about and what if you have queens available to you. So
Well, what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to pick up the whole nuke and move it and plop it into another spot on the rack.
yep,
I'm trying to establish. I'm trying to keep my honey production hives up to par. You know, I
Hmm.
can't afford. I need all the honey I can get.
yep, I totally get it. I'm a small backyard beekeeper, but once the word got out there, I can't produce enough honey now.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, what a bad problem, huh?
Well, I
Yeah.
had one guy quit up just a quarter mile up the road, and he points everybody to me. That probably equated to probably an additional 400 to 500 pounds of sales.
Wow.
And so now I need somewhere around 1,500 pounds of honey. I need, and you know, I got last year. Things were good. I had a requeen, and it went better than I thought. I got 1,000 pounds of honey,
Wow.
and now I've expanded my honey production. I'm thinking about expanding it again by going from 16 to 18 production hives. And but I need to move that one nuke down. Like I say, I guess I'm looking at the weather. Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be reduced flight so I can kind of hold, keep them in, lock them up for 3 or 4 days,
So
Yeah.
and then, like about 3 days, and then I usually, like you say, I take a pine limb with needles and kind of stuck it into the front of that hive and say, okay, something's changed now. You need to reorientate to something.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think no matter what you do, you're going to have bees that go to the original spot. And so the other thing I advise people when they move hives like that is just move the hive. But I use bucket feeders, whatever feeder you may use. Just make sure that since you lost your foraging force, that you keep some food going in there.
Right. It's just, I mean, they got plenty of honey in there. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's funny though
I
how
fed and did
they'll
some
ignore
different.
their own honey sometimes.
Right. Well, I did
Yeah.
some external feeding, in the winterish, figuring they were going to run out of food, and there was plenty of honey in a lot of those hives. So,
Yep.
Nancy was losing too many hives of starvation.
Yeah. She had to break down and feed.
But anyway, that's my predicament right now. I'm trying to plug the holes up with bees as far as hives. And then also, like I was telling Bill earlier, I think there's 5 or 6 nukes out there left that they're 3 boxes tall at least, and I need to get into them and see what's going on, and before somebody swarms on me. And then on top of all that, I need to think about making up a cell builder. So it's just kind of all coming at one time.
Yeah. It's coming again. It's starting to come now like it did last year in February and early March. So we're always behind the curve, Charlie. Always.
Just trying to keep up.
Yep. Sometimes it's hard to keep up,
And when you're by yourself.
Yeah. When you're by yourself, it's hard to keep up. You're right.
I know Sandy said something about putting a frame of cat brood with a package, and I would say that would be fine.
Yeah.
And Nancy said the same thing. So, what happened to him?
I don't know.
You ever sealed up a nuke and stuck it in your truck and driven around for 30, 40 minutes and drop them in a new spot? It confuses some of them. You don't have as many of them going back, but
Right.
I tried it a couple times. And it's not, for me, it's not worth the hassle and the fuel. So I just pick them up and drop them, and
There you are.
foragers go wherever they
I'm
go.
hitting buttons. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Nancy, if that's what you're, or Sandy, if that's what you're trying to do, yeah, pull some brood out of there. You call they equalize and kind of set that hive back and put open comb in there if you got it. That's basically what a demerit does. Is you're pulling the brood out of the brood chamber so she has a place to lay. And I don't know, most people, that's what I found. That is the trigger for swarming. As long as she can lay, she's fine.
Yep.
But I was watching somebody had some, it was a video and they were, the hive was going to get ready to swarm. Well, he kept pulling up frames of slabs of brood, from corner to corner. I said, there's your problem. You've got to remove that, get that out of there. And something that I never thought about it is, I think maybe you said, maybe made the statement down there on that splits class, Bill, is that a demerit is a vertical split.
Yes, it is.
And it's, instead of being where if you take brood out of one hive and you put it in another box over here off to the side to make a new hive, that's called a horizontal split. And that's what keeps, splitting or giving that queen that room to lay eggs continually.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it as well, single brood box management is sort of a vertical split as well, because you're always pulling brood out of that, putting empty frames in and redistributing and everything else. Rather than making a split, you're just spreading the wealth.
So,
I mean,
it's not, Sandy, it's not going to affect the package or the queen. I mean, it's their bees come out. They think they don't know who mom is. They just, there's mom.
They don't care.
They don't care as long as it's,
as long as it's baby bees, that's all they care about. And the other bees in there will think that she laid those eggs too.
Right. Actually, it will probably keep the hive together better too.
Yeah, it will. It'll definitely keep it together.
And we got so ahead here so quickly that when I artificially swarmed mine like normal, the weather's so warm, my bees just started making queens after queen after queen. I think I ended up just I think I started off doing 4 of them. And those 4 turned into 14 pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really had to cut them. I had, little medium hives. A medium box would have 4 or 5 frames that had 9 or 10 queen cells each on them. And I just couldn't live with myself to completely waste them. So I found every bottom board, every piece of plywood I had, and just started cutting and spread them all out, and we'll just see what comes back. I figured that cold snap every week would have really taken some of them out, because I made some fairly small nukes out of some of them just to see if I could hatch the queens and mate them. Yeah. Surprisingly, everything made it through. So now I've got the problem of too many bees, not enough equipment already. So I'm almost hoping some of them don't make it back, just to give me some more time to get some equipment around. But
we all have that problem.
Yeah.
I was like, when I did them demeries, it was still kind of chilly. And, I had only had the honey super in between the ones that I gave 2 extras today. But there was enough bee power there that they went up and they, completely encapsulated that brood, within. I found, easy way to do a split is, like out of a nuke or any of the hive, is take your queen excluder, pull the frames out that you want to make the split with, shake all the bees off, put a queen excluder on top of the brood nest, and then put a box and put your brood that you just selected. And I found it, if I'm working hives like I was working nukes, I'd work, let's say 15 nukes down the line or 10 nukes down the line. By the time I got down to the 10th nuke doing my thing, it's probably 20 minutes or so it went by. You go back to hive number 1 where you did that queen excluder maneuver. The bees are already covered all that. You can pull those frames off of there with the nurse bees. And now you got a split that the queen's not there at all. And, if you give them a frame of open eggs, they'll make their own queen cell in about 6 days or so. So that's the easy way of doing it. A lot of people forget to do that, to use that queen excluder. It's more than just for honey. It's a good tool to do a lot of different things with. So
totally agree on that.
yeah, like I've made a shaker box, like what's his name over Mike Palmer.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I forget what the reasoning was. It was a great big hive, and I'm trying to find the queen, and I'm going, berserk about it. And I went and shaked all the bees through a queen excluder. I found her, and I found, I think, 3 daughters.
Wow.
3 daughters in that hive. Like really? So
3 swarms.
yeah. Hey, Keith. And
Hey,
they were big enough that they didn't go through the queen excluder.
Wow.
Hey, Tiny Creek. So I've seen that quite often, and I've found nukes where I was teaching a guy about, I had a nuke here that was queenless and one that was queen right, and I said, about how one's calm and one's kind of crazy and one's loud and one's calm and real quiet. And then I went back, I don't know, several days later, and I'm looking through this one hive. I know it's got a queen in it, and I'm looking, oh, there's the queen. She's, kind of racing around on the frame, a little bit small. And then 2 frames over, here's Big Mama with a red dot on her, or whatever color it was at the time. Like, well, heck, that was a virgin queen or whatever, daughter queen. And I found her, and I went over there and just kind of shook the frame. She kind of walked off down into that other hive. And as soon as, it wasn't 5 seconds. Bees up on the top, jacked her butts up and say, hey, queen's here, queen's here.
Wow.
And came back in a week or 2, and she had frame laid up. So I lucked out on that. So
Yeah, you did luck out on it.
So that's what's been happening here. Like I say, I've been trying to keep up with everything. The supers that I had gotten out of the freezer, they're pretty much all on the hives now. And I don't know, just trying to keep up with before I have to go anywhere anytime soon.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
Was that
Bolt the
lightning?
lightning.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just gonna say that looked. I could see the flash on your shirt. Was that lightning?
That was lightning. That was close.
Wow. Hey, if we're looking to fill some time, I can tell a story similar to what Charlie was telling about multiple queens, but it was a swarm. So I had this swarm that started up 50 feet up the top of the oak trees and then came down to an apple tree in my yard. So I got real lucky with that. And then so now it's a small apple tree, easy for me to get to, and I'm looking for the queen. And I'm looking at this tree, and I do see the queen pop in and out of the swarm because it's kind of up the trunk of the tree. It's a small apple tree about 3 inches around. And so I catch her and put her in the cage. She looks like a nice, healthy queen. I stick her in the box, and I'm trying to shake bees in there. But I keep seeing these little clusters of bees on the ground. And I'm like, is there another queen there or what? So I grab the cluster of bees in my hand, and sure enough, I see a little queen in there, and it looks like a little virgin queen. So ask me how I know virgins can come out of a queen clip. So I put this queen in the queen clip and it just walks right out of it. And we're like, well, that's not going to work. So I went and grabbed some queen cages that I could plug. And I'm finding these little clusters on the ground. I think about 3 or 4 of them. And each one of them, the bees are balling up these little virgin queens.
Huh.
I ended up rescuing like 2 of them. One I put in a regular cage, with the candy in it. I put that in a split, and that one actually must have went out and mated and worked, so that worked. One of them, the whole thing's they absconded and everything. No queen in there. That was a total failure. But I mean, out of that swarm, I got what looked to be the original queen from the hive, and the one virgin there. But man, I was surprised as to how many little virgin queens were in there, and they were just balling them up. Kind of like they knew who their queen was, and they didn't want to deal with these little virgin queens.
Yeah. They were getting rid of them.
Yep. So that's all I had for that little story. But
Yeah, I was reading that.
Well, if you get a good tulip poplar flow, you'll get more than 2 deeps.
Yeah, I mean, as far as knowing if the tulip pop, you should, a typical, that's pretty easy to identify.
Yeah, it is.
A nice big white blossom.
Yep.
Kind of has like an orangey looking thing in the center.
Yep. Yeah, tulip poplar, once it gets going,
Well, for me, it's about the same time as locust. Used to be, they tell me that locust would come in for so many weeks, then poplar would flow for so many weeks. Now it's all kind of combined.
Yep. Now it all runs together because of the way the weather's going.
Well, maybe we're going back to the original weather patterns.
In a way, I kind of hope so, because I used to know those weather patterns. It was very easy to predict what was going to happen.
Was it later?
You could always count on swarm season in April, first two weeks of April. You could always count on that. You could always plan for it. And then usually your flow hits right when it's supposed to hit, and it's right there.
Well, I know a friend of mine, his wife was talking about, they were talking about apple blossoms up here, and apple blossom used to bloom at a certain time of the year, and it was always earlier. Now it seems to be later.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yep.
Well, Darren, I can tell you one thing. I just spotted my first dandelion in the yard today. And there's a lot of stuff. The trees and stuff are starting to leaf out a little bit, and different things is blooming. You're talking about like what do you call it? Bees are flying around 50 degrees. I went out there Sunday. I figured, I got out there by the time I got there with equipment, it was 11:30, and it was around 50 degrees. And I got going, let's say by noontime it was 54, but we had a lot of flight Sunday and everything.
Yeah, we did too. We had a lot of bees flying Sunday. The wife was in the bees on Sunday in the new bees and the packages that she put in, and was feeding them. So I'm pleased with these packages the way they're going. So they're nice, calm bees. They're not all hyped up. So, but they're already drawing comb out on the 2 frames of blank comb that we put in with them, their frames are almost drawn out. So
Yeah. So Kirk, you say they weren't flying at 50?
Well, I find 50 degrees and sunny versus 50 degrees and overcast is very
Oh, yeah.
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
And
lot
it
different.
was 50 degrees and overcast. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It was
I-
like I guess it was last week we had a little bit of rain or whatever coming in. It was that damp, cold, miserable
Yep.
air.
yeah, that's pretty
Everybody
much what
was
we were seeing.
everybody was huddled in, and that was it. So, Will, I hear you demo-read a few this week.
Yep, I demoed 3 of them on Sunday. I did another one today, and then I was hoping to do a couple more, but I just didn't have the bee population and didn't have just didn't have the brood. I mean, I can't believe the difference from one hive to the next. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
But
would.
so I have four demories out there right now, and then like I say, I had 2 more production colonies that weren't big enough, so I put a super on them just to be sure and checked through and did basically the same thing. I made sure that the brood and she had space down in the bottom box, but they're going to need a few weeks to build up.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I was. I did those 4 here several weeks ago, and then I just did the rest of them this week, and now they're just starting to, like you say, the amount of brood in them, they're just starting to kick in.
Yep.
I think because it's the coldness, and I have to say also that, hey Tom, I don't know. I'm looking at brood and the amount of brood, the pattern, and all that stuff. Really, examining the queen and what's going on. Since I had all that issues with queens last year where they were just, they were almost quit, dying out on me, and I had requeened everything and seen like a 180-degree turnaround where you went from little teeny spots of brood like that to frames of brood.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing quite the frames of brood like I did last year. And I was listening to that science gal here a year or more ago, where she said after the first season or after the first year of the queen, she loses 40% of her laying power. And it's definitely, I can kind of tell it. It just, I'm more, what would you say, keen on watching that trend.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, they're slower to come up and less. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just, I was like, what, like last year it hit me blindsided. I'm like, what's going on here? And yeah, DC, I'm going to get rid of them after this season. I'm getting rid of them again. And I tell you, I'm kind of thinking about maybe figuring out somehow I can requeen on a yearly basis, or at least do like Doug does up in Saskatchewan. He does about half his yard, or half of his total amount of bees.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the quote unquote experts, they say mid-Atlantic states should requeen every other year. But that depends on what you've got going on too.
Well, then I was also thinking about, you have to think about this in your queen operation, like talking with like Cajun Brad from Cajun Homestead down in Louisiana. He can get about 1.5 years out of his bees because she's laying 12 months out of the year down there in that warm area. So he's requeening every fall, I'll say every August or something like that, because he has, he really doesn't have a winter, and he can requeen a lot later than me. And, but then think about it. Think about the amount of eggs the queen is laying. Think about my style of beekeeping. All right. So Or am I making her lay and put herself in high gear about laying a lot more eggs in a compressed time because I'm keep pulling brood out, keep pulling brood out. She's laying and laying and laying and laying. So am I, it's like dairy cows. Or am I burning that cow up or I'm burning that queen up by
I don't think you're
like
burning her up, Charlie, but when you're pulling brood, it's single brood box management. When you're pulling that brood out and putting a blank frame in to keep her laying like that, it's yes, you are. She is laying more than she normally would because normally she would catch a break waiting for brood to hatch out. She might get a day or a day and a half break from laying because whatever hatches out, she's going to go refill. You know what I mean? So
Have you seen? There was a young guy. At least when he put the video out, he's probably older now. I think it's Devin Rawls.
yeah, Devin, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
he describes single brood management, and he literally counted all the cells that were available and all that. I mean,
Yeah. He
yeah,
it was
it's
did.
going a
amazing
little
what he.
far.
Well, I believed him, and so what I would do early in the season is I would pluck out a couple, frames of brood. I'd create my splits with those and things, and I would do that for a little while. But once the flow started, and if the hive's got 3 supers on it now, I really don't want to go lift all those supers and go down there anymore. And yeah, you're kind of rolling the dice on swarming, but I rarely had swarms coming out of those hives with single brood management. And when I would go down and dive in there, there was always room. Now, they barely store any honey in there when they really get fired off. You
Well, that's
might
what you want.
you might find the outer frame might have a little bit in there or nectar, but it's just packed full of brood. And that was like, wow, these bees figure it out.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they do.
I was kind of chuckling with that mathematics thing, where, they I forget who it was. I sat down here and wrote all that stuff down where the queen is laying on average of 1,200 eggs a day or something like that. And you got X amount of thousand cells for her to lay in, minus 10% for nectar and minus 10% for pollen in the corners. So you should have 50 some thousand cells, and she should be, and then within 3 weeks, it should be like a revolving door, but I tried to do that bee math and I got it figured out, but I don't think the bees figured it out too well.
No.
And it just didn't work for me. But now when I'm keep giving her frames to go, and I'm going in there about every 10 days or so, it seems to work. Now, I have to say, that's the problem about digging down in there, but that's why I got a hive lifter. I can,
Good
I,
Yeah,
can,
idea.
I raise that thing up, bring it back. I go into the 2 bottom boxes, do my thing there, put first I take all the empties out of the top brood thing. Then I got them off to the side and swap them out like I did today. And, then I take that hive lifter, I can tip it right back on there real easy.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I made my bee yard too confined, and I keep saying to myself, boy, I'd like to be able to get one of those hive lifters in there. I would invest in it,
Oh yeah.
but
It's,
yeah, I kind of screwed myself there.
now today, I mean, there was a lot of time. I mean, weight wise, I really didn't need it. I did use it today. It's kind of a nice thing where you can go in, you grab the 2 boxes as a unit. You've already pulled those frames of open brood out of the top, put them off to the side in a spare box, and you just run that hive lifter back up out of the way, get into those other 2 boxes. You got room to work. I'll tell you another thing, the best good investment I know, 2 bee brats, which is Carl. He's got 2 of them. I think he's going to buy 2 more. Is that 40-inch collapsible aluminum bench that you can get from Harbor Freight. Now they're $65 right now, but you keep an eye on Harbor Freight. You could probably get them for about $40, $39 or something like that on sale.
Yeah, we were talking about those last week.
And they're, I looked at the stats on it. They're 11 pounds. They're about 18 inches up off the ground. And you can, instead of me going down to grab something, I can just go sideways and it's there. Put a lid up on top, upside down, put your brood box right there, and you can work. And it really saves your back quite a bit. Now, something that Carl did is if he could work his hive in a sitting position, he will, like, if he's got the racks there, either he can put it in between the two hives, or if there's no space on the end of the rack, he can actually straddle the rack with that bench and sit there and go through that hive from the side. He says it does quite well with him. So,
I've heard people frown upon what I do, but I will use the adjacent hive next to me as a stand, and literally lift the box onto the next hive. And I guess against the common belief, it usually doesn't bother the other hive that much. And the other thing I use is those workmates. They're a little portable bench that you can carry around, and they fold up. And it's surprising how much weight those things can hold. But I'll put those things next to me, and I'm like you're saying, I'm a firm believer of just sliding off to the side as opposed to picking up. But it's funny to watch as I have people help me. They pick up these big, heavy boxes and they set them on the ground. And I'm like, you don't have to put it on the ground. Now you got to lift it up off the ground.
Yeah. Well, see, that's like my design right there, where I have that open space between the two hives, and that's that rack. It's designed where it kept you could put upside down lid, and it was 6 or 7, 8 inches up off the ground, but you still had to, you're bending over. And when I got that aluminum bench where it'll hold 250 pounds or more, it's supposed to be designed for you to stand on it, like if you're doing drywall inside of a house. And that's how sturdy it is.
And you can probably put 2 boxes side by side on that too, probably.
Oh yeah. I put 2 upside down lids right there. And like you say, you pick, instead of me going way down to the ground, I just turn sideways. I put it right in the corner of where the hive's sitting, and I just swing it around and drop it down. And then the next brood, let's say like today, I actually did a video, but what I did was that I took my high lifter, picked up the honey super and the top brood chamber, pulled it back out of the way. I put a lid there to take and put that second brood chamber medium right there on the, after I went through it, I just transferred it over and put it on that bench. And then of course the lid captures all the bees that fall off. And then I had my little extra, where I was pulling brood out. I have that on that rack there in between the hives and stuff, because it's it's easy to get out of the way. But I've had them where if I'm doing that original Demery, I'd have 2 lids on there. I've got to work with 3 mediums when I'm first setting that up. So I got a spot for each medium to go on there. So I got the one on the base, and I'm going through the brood there, fill that box up, sit that secondary brood box back on top. And I think I've already went through that one, fill that back up with, drawing comb, and then, do your queen excluder and then your honey super. And then you got that second or third box that's sitting on that bench, and you just kind of, arrange it and everything, and then put it on top of the hive. And
Gary's bees, I think it was 2 weeks.
What's that?
Gary's Bees was asking how long it took to get the hive lifter. I think it was about 2 weeks from the time I pulled the trigger till the time I had it.
Okay.
Hey, Clay.
It was about 2 or 3 weeks for me, I think.
Yep.
I really didn't. It was in the middle of the winter, and I was like, okay, I told him what I wanted, and he said, okay, well, and then he said it was coming. But yeah, but that bench, I tell you, that's a great. I mean, I kind of forgot it today, and I'm like, where am I going to set this at? And I'm like, oh, I forgot my bench. But it's definitely a back saver.
So did you get into the rolling portion of the Demery today, Charlie?
Yeah, I made a
Where you
video.
went back in the bottom boxes?
Yep, I went. I call it a roll Demery maintenance.
Yep.
I did a video about that today, and I'll get that out here in a day or two.
So so you pulled some more brood out that you're going to move up?
Yeah, I went. What I did was I went into those 4 hives that they were overdue to be checked. Definitely between weather conditions and me. And yeah, Nancy says it took you 2 years. Yes, it took 2 years for me to make a decision to buy the hive lifter, but I wanted to make sure it was going to work for me. And so what I did was, first thing I did was open up the top box where that brood was. I shook all the bees off all the frames. I had my little extra medium box off to the right there. And, definitely they had hatched out. Pull those brood out, shake them bees off, put them over in that box off to the side between the 2 hives. And then I had taken my hive lifter out there. So I went ahead and it had some weight in the supers, but not, I can definitely lift it up. It wasn't that much problem, but it just, it works better that way with a hive lifter. You can pick those 2 boxes up at one time. The bees are all kind of there inside that box. They're not being disturbed. You back it out of the way and they won't fall out on the ground. They're kind of hanging from the bottom of the box and on them frames. And then I picked my queen excluder up and shook all the bees off down in the 2 top boxes. And then I went through that top box and went through the top box and set off the cat brood off into my spare box off to the right. Took the frames that I had pulled out of the top that are empty, threw them back into that box, and then I picked that box up and I had my bench right there with the lid upside down, put it over there on the top of that thing, and then I went through the bottom box. Sometimes there was more brood in the bottom box, and sometimes there was more brood in the top medium super. It just kind of depends. So I made sure, both, I filled the bottom up and I put the other box back on, put the queen excluder back on, and I brought my hive lifter up. And what I do is I bring it up and align that back edge of that boxes. And then I lean it. I just kind of lift it up and it tilts right over, kind of like a piano hinge, and it just brings the box right straight down. Then you have to kind of line it up with just a hair. And then you have your brood in that spare box that it's capped, and I throw all that in there and I'm done.
So did you roll? So you had 2 mediums on the bottom under a queen excluder. So do you think you rolled 6 frames out of there and moved up 8 frames out of there?
6.
Okay, so then she's got all that extra space in there now, down below. Yep. Now, so this was kind of the second step, right? Did you find queen cells up top when you went through them 7 days after your original move or not?
There wasn't any queen cells. Now, a few of them had started when I pulled them frames out, I remembered them. There was a lot of brood, and then they had a lot of pollen around them. And there just wasn't any, from what I could see, they were closer to 100% capped. Okay. No other open brood at all.
Okay.
Now, there was some up there that I had a little line of capped brood still in there. But I'll say 80 or 90% of the frame was open. Right. So I'm like, the problem I had on these last 4 hives, they were backfilling them brood frames with nectar.
Yep.
And I shook the nectar out of them down in on the honey super, put them off to the side. Like I say, then I went downstairs, pulled all that cap brood out. You know, some of them you pulled out, you had capped on one side and eggs and larvae and a lot of jelly on the other. Well, you're not going to put that upstairs. You just keep that down in the bottom.
So
It's
that
just,
top brood nest, did you find a bunch of drones above the queen excluder for that? Or didn't you
Some.
put a queen excluder up top?
I seen about 6 or 7 of them sticking their heads through the queen excluder trying to get through.
Okay. I was wondering. Yep.
You're going to lose some.
Yep.
I mean, are we really worried about it?
No, I was trying to decide if I wanted to just crack something up top there to let them get out. But I figure in 7 days when I go back to check these 4, I'll see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just have to get used to it.
Yep. Yep.
I top vent, and the drones still try to go through that queen excluder.
That's the only way out.
Well, I'm saying I have a hole up top that the drones could get out. And
But they didn't go out that way.
No, the drones tried to go through the queen excluder.
Okay.
The thing of it is, you got to watch about that. When you don't want an upper entrance, because if you got a mated queen coming back, she can smell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about the Demeray. I'm just talking about in general. I make that observation.
Well, it's still the same thing.
It's any hive. You don't want a top entrance if you've got a queen out getting mated, because if you're running a queen excluder, she gets up top, you're done.
Oh no, I'm talking about my regular hive configurations that have mated queens in there.
But I don't run top entrances in anything at any time.
No.
Yep. No, I know that's not the.
I mean, it's all up to anybody. You know, whatever y'all want to do. I mean,
whatever you want to do, but it's not recommended.
Yeah, I've ran top entrances for years on a bunch of mine. Just kind of depends what I have at the time.
Yep.
I mean, some people do top entrances if you're up at Michael Palmer where they got 6 foot of snow.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the hive's buried. I mean, I watched some of his videos where he's out there with a stick trying to find the hives underneath the damn snowpack.
Yeah.
And because it's going to be warm enough so the bees can get out and do defecate. And that's what he's trying to, accomplish. That's how bad the snow is up there, but we don't get anything like that.
Yeah. I've done tops some of mine I've had in areas where ants are real bad. That's the way to get around them. I sealed everything on the bottom up real tight, solid bottoms, and a top entrance. So when the weeds get long and I don't get to cut them, the ants don't have a nice little ladder to go right in. That was worked out pretty good for that.
So machine gun me, guys, on this one. What would happen running this Demeray, running 2 queen excluders, right? What if you put a mated queen in that top box?
You're defeating your purpose, number one.
Okay.
Run that by me again, Will.
So I have a bottom brood box. Then I have my queen excluder. Then I have 2 honey supers. Then I have a queen excluder. Then I have another brood box up top, another deep.
Okay.
Right. Run them.
You're gonna do another queen upstairs.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, that'd be like a 2 queen hive, but
yep.
If she's a mated queen, she ain't gonna get through that mated. She ain't gonna get through the queen excluder.
So she would have to stay up in her top box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that means you'd have to have a top entrance too.
Why?
So the bees in her area would be able to get in and out and forage for her.
Yeah.
You don't think they'll go down through those honey supers and go out the bottom entrance?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
So I'd have to give her own entrance.
Yeah. I've heard about the 2 queen hive. How does that work?
One entrance has to face one way and one entrance has to face the other way.
Yep. But they'd work the honey supers in between together?
Maybe.
The one way to find out is try it.
I got a hive here. It's what's his name? George. He's out there at Navi. He had what's it called? The keeper's hive.
Yep.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I first, was the president of the club me and Nancy belonged to. He came back and be president now. But anyway, he had a hive that I'll say he's developed it a lot better now. It's gotten better. I got one of the first hives he built where you got a hive off to the right, 8 frames,
Yep.
hive off to the left, 8 frames. And then you got a stack in the middle, and it had a queen excluder. Now he's perfected it a lot better than what the ones I got. And you went up. So it was kind of a 2 queen hive, and they would, the worker bees would go up, and all that. You're supposed to be able to pull the brood out. And I guess maybe we're supposed to do a demery. I think that's what it was. It was easy. Instead of me having a hive lifter, that's what it was. His idea was you could go through these frames and pull the brood out, put another comb back in, and put it up on top of the stack like a chimney. And then they would come down and out through the holes. The problem with that is, and Brad up at Faith Apiaries talks about this, just like Ian and Brad, they have those 3 6-frame nukes together. They put 2 queen excluders on, and they can put, see, what is it? I think it's either 1 or 2 honey supers on top. I forget what I know it's a deep box. It's either 1 or 2 deep boxes that go up with it, but it's got 3 boxes of 3 queens in the bottom. Most cases, they were talking about it, is that they have issues where that center box, that queen, if she dies out or they kill her because of the pheromones of the other 2 hives or the other 2 queens. And they're kind of like, it's like a competition between the queens, that they're so close together because of pheromones and stuff. So,
see, I took last year, I had a 10-frame box that I split in half with core flex, like that plastic cardboard.
mm-hmm.
And then I had a queen excluder over top. So you had, and I was running them too high. So you had 10 frames on each side, split in the middle. I'd put a queen excluder over top of the 2 of them, and then just stack honey supers.
Mm-hmm.
And they would work, both would work collectively to fill those. You know what I mean? Now, It was only okay. It didn't really blow my skirt up. But I was wondering what you'd have to do. I was just wondering, put a mated queen up top, and if that would be another way of doubling, then you'd have 2 queens laying up brood, contributing to the population.
I mean, you can try it, but I don't know. It might be worth trying. But to me, if you're going to demeray it, that's defeating the purpose of the demeray. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a different
approach.
Yeah.
We could call it the toothacher split.
Hey, Bill, why don't you click on Nancy's comment there?
I do have a kilt, by the way. Technically not a skirt, but a kilt.
I bet you won't wear it while you're beekeeping.
I'll tell you, Nancy,
right.
Nancy does. I couldn't believe it.
You're right. Nope. No way. I see Brad up there working bees with shorts on and short sleeve shirts, and it's like, nope.
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 Yeah, Nancy works with a skirt on in the bee yard. I've seen it. I've seen her in video.
She's tougher than me. I'll freely admit that.
No way I'd do anything like that.
Yep.
And Brian works his in shorts.
Hey, I wear a jacket, but I wear mine in shorts and sandals sometimes.
Whew.
It just depends what I'm doing, though.
You guys are tougher than me.
Like right now, I mean, I'll wear jeans, but I'm wearing flip flops with them. So you have to kick some bees off your feet every now and then. And you feel them, crawling up your toes.
I was in the bee yard today with nothing but a veil on and a short sleeve.
A veil in your birthday suit.
I'd say nothing to see that.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it gives us a good visual.
When I'm out there, maybe I'm a little on the rougher side or whatever, and I'm really stirring them up. And one thing especially like doing these demeries and really, because you got so many bees are really wound up.
Oh yeah.
I gotta put leggings on, Velcro straps around my legs or around my jeans.
Do you have
They're
some
all-
ankle biters?
They don't bite up ankles. They kind of work on themselves on up the legs, and they get up close.
They get up close and personal.
Yeah.
I've been to some yards where they had ankle biters. Yeah.
Mine, there's so many bees out on the ground, and then you'll get some of that nectar on your boots.
Yep.
Your boots are covered with that nectar because it's coming, splashing out. Well, they're on your shoes, and then they decide, well, let's walk on up this here tunnel
And see what.
Let's walk on up this tree, right?
See what this inside this tree looks like.
Yep.
And then I feel it that I got to find her and squeeze her in there, to hopefully smash her.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
And hopefully she's still not alive enough to sting you if you smash her.
Oh, they get the stinging. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you accept the sting at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have no choice.
No, I don't do yoga pants. I don't know what. No.
That's another visual I didn't need, Charlie.
Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need that visual.
No, that's what Darren was asking.
So how did your packages look, Bill?
They look great. They look really good. I was out strapping them down today. Just a veil, t-shirt, jeans, no gloves, working around the front of them, put my hand in front of them and everything, and they paid no attention to me.
Did they draw any comb on the inside of the boxes?
Oh, yeah, they've drawn comb.
Yeah, I had a hell of a time getting the cans out because they had drawn comb on the cans, the sides of the cans.
I put them in 8-frame hives, 8-frame deeps.
Yep.
I put a single in-frame feeder, a frame of honey, frame of pollen, 2 drawn frames, and 2 blank frames. And the blank frames are drawn out. And she's laying all over the drawn comb.
Did you direct release or did you just pull a cork?
3 days.
So you pulled the cork out and she was out in 3.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I gave them 4 frames of drawn comb for the most part, and now I put an in-frame feeder in, but I have quart jars of syrup on them. That's a little easier for me to deal with. So.
Yeah, that in-frame feeder is almost a gallon.
Yep.
And we fed Sunday, and most of them were empty.
So that's in how many days they emptied that?
Well, Wednesday to Sunday.
Okay. How was your bee die-off with the in-frame feeders? Are you using a cap and ladder or are you using float?
I'm using cap and ladder in it.
Okay.
They're not open. I lose a few, but it's nothing major, but I do lose a few.
Will they give you anything if you save your packages?
No.
You don't get nothing back on them?
Nope. Nothing.
I think I'm headed to Georgia Wednesday next week.
Good luck.
So
our driver ran into rain coming back, had to stop for 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bad rain. Or was he hauling open?
Bad rain.
Okay.
He had a cattle trailer, and he had them tarp over him around them. But it's got raining so hard he couldn't see the road, and he got out and went to the back of the trailer, and water was running out of the back of the trailer. So he said, "I got to stop." So he stopped.
Yeah, Rob's got like a 22 or 24 foot enclosed trailer, and it's got like windows on it. that you can crank open to draw the air in, and then
Yep.
windows in the back to draw it out. So I think we're going to be taking that one, but
Good luck.
I'm just going along to help and ride. I just want to see the insanity. I've never been down to see it.
Oh, it's something to see.
Where are you going to go, Will?
I'm
What-
going to ride with my one bee buddy up here in Carlisle down to pick up a load of bees
Where are you
in
going
Georgia
down?
somewhere.
You're going
I'm
down to
not sure
Gardner's,
which-
right? You're
I'm-
going to
I'm not
Gardner's, right?
sure. I think it's Gardner's, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yeah, those guys down there get to shaking bees and loading those trailers. Don't get in their way.
Yep.
They'll
Stand
run.
back.
They'll walk all over you.
I don't think that. Are they going to really? You know, it's one thing. I'll go to Hardeman's and they won't take you where they're shaking bees any. I go to their queen mating yards, and that's But I think liability wise, they're not going to take you out there like that.
The
Did
last
you-
time I was down to Gardner's, they were shorthanded, and he looked at us and said, "Hey, if you help shake bees, I'll give you a discount." So we helped shake bees for 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Charlie, did you make your rundown yet?
No, I'm hoping it's going to be this week. I will still want to go to grafting class at Bill's, and
Yeah, I gotta play that smart because I think we're gonna leave Wednesday. We're gonna get back up Friday morning or something like that. We're gonna do a couple little side things while we're down there, but so we're gonna be coming back up, passing bees out Friday morning, and then I'm gonna do a turnaround and head to Woodstock, Virginia, Friday afternoon, evening, for that class. So
you're leaving this week or next week?
Wednesday next week, right?
Oh,
Yep.
I
I'll
can
have
tell you,
traveled a
coming
few
back, you
miles.
won't get a lot of sleep. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I will have traveled a few miles till I see you guys if I see you Friday night.
Yep.
The thing of it is about hauling bees is once you're loaded, you don't stop.
Exactly.
Yep.
Except anything we stop for is fuel. We might stop coming back during the day for maybe lunch, and that's a quick lunch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
got
it.
to keep air on them bees, man, because they will cook.
Yeah, Nancy, Will's working bees full time.
I'm trying to.
So there's a good video out there. I don't know. Well, I think it's a video. It looked like a video to go from hobbyist to sideline. But you're going straight to commercial, aren't you?
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure. I'm just standing on the gas pedal and seeing where it goes right now.
Well, I think Will, you're
I'm
trying
back to 53 today.
Well, I'll call you sideliner to where you're maybe going towards commercial, but on the other hand, you're feeling your way through the sideliner and figuring out
Yep.
what to
And
do and what to do.
And
in
I'm
the
trying
bee.
to find my place. You know what I mean? I was talking to Bill about wax dipping stuff. I'm gonna ride along and see what this package stuff is all about and see where she goes.
Well, don't be like the one guy. We were going down south, got a phone call, and somebody asked us, "Do we have any extra bees to sell?" And we said no. They're all spoken for. They're all prepaid for.
Yeah.
And what happened was there was a guy ahead of us. Now you got to remember where I live. I'm almost to Pennsylvania line, and that's where Lloyd lives. We're within 15, 20 minutes of PA line.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy lives in Southern Maryland, so he's going.
He's out on the eastern shore.
Oh, he was on Eastern Shore yet.
If you're in Southern Maryland, you're on the Eastern Shore, right?
No, it would be on the western shore. We're talking about down Waldorf and all that.
Oh yeah.
Is that an hour south of you, Charlie?
Oh hell no, that's 2 hours or more.
At least
is it
2
that
hours.
Two,
Yeah.
It's 2 to 3. In order for me to go down and go around, keep away from Washington D.C., and it's red lights and stuff, but you're avoiding Washington. And you'll come out you'll go across whatever that bridge is across the Potomac, and you'll come out there about 20 miles north of what's it called, the amusement park down there with King's Dominion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We're about 20 miles north of King's Dominion where you come out at.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that guy lived in that, like, around Waldorf area.
Yeah.
He went down there. He had a truck, an enclosed truck, the way it was explained to us. It had, I think, some air conditioning, to keep things cool, because you got to keep the bees cool, or if they get hot, they'll melt.
Yep.
Die on you.
They will.
Or if it gets wet, like he's talking about that water running out of the back of thing, that's another thing that you get them wet, too damn wet, they'll die on you.
Yeah, they'll freeze to death.
And he kept telling the guys at where he picked up the packages, where can I stay? Where can I stay? And I'm like, you don't stay anywhere. You get in the truck and you drive till you get home. You got to keep that air moving through that hot, and all this other stuff. And he stopped, slept. Well, guess what? He had a truckload of dead bees.
I'm sure he did.
And it's like, if you got 300 or 400 packages, I was surprised when I said, well, what are we paying, or what paying for these things? You got $35,000 or $40,000 worth of bees on the back of that.
Yeah, box. You do.
Rob brought back 800 packages last week.
You got about $80,000 worth of bees there.
That's right. That's the number that I figured. He's got $80,000 worth of bees back there.
I can tell you one thing. You better have some cargo insurance or something.
True.
Because,
well, he told me before he left, he said, "You're my backup. If you get a call, I need you hustling."
Well, that cattle trailer will hold 2,500 packages of bees.
Whew. Wow. Yeah. Now keep in mind, Rob's trailer was only about 4 feet high with bees. I mean, there was another 2 feet on top.
Oh yeah, you gotta have airflow.
Because he's got an enclosed trailer. That cattle trailer, you can stack from floor to ceiling.
Yep.
And front to back. 2,500 packages.
But you gotta, they'll space some packages out and they put little strips on there and they nail it.
Yep.
That way there's airflow.
Yeah, there's at least 2 to 2.5 inches between a package.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of ours are even wider than that a lot of times.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to go down just to see it, and I'll help him drive and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because they're going to load us Thursday, and it's going to be everything we got to get to Carlisle Friday morning and start handing them out at 9 o'clock and hopefully be done by 2,
And if you run into weather, you can figure you probably won't be there till noon.
Yep.
That or traffic.
Yeah.
But
that's why I got my bees in this load, and I figured when I go down with them, I wouldn't want to do all that driving and then get home and then have to deal with a whole bunch of bees.
Yep.
With 15 hours of driving right under your belt.
Exactly.
But like Nancy said, they get hot. I was surprised on how much heat. 300 or 400. Well, you get 250, 300 boxes of bees back there, and this is on a stake body truck, and we get bad weather. Well, we'll put a canvas over top, and we got our side walls are plywooded up and everything, so it's solid on the sides and the front and the back, or not the back, but the sides. And then if the bad weather hits, we put in a canvas on top with an open area in the front where it kind of lets the air through it. I got up inside there underneath that canvas, and it was like a blast furnace in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's how much heat bees produce.
Yeah.
You just don't realize that you know.
I told my girlfriend, I said, the heating system ever goes out, all you need to do is have about 50 packages in your basement, and that'd do it.
Yeah.
They really put the heat out.
They
Now, I
do.
was surprised, Bill, about all the comb that they drew.
Ryan, I need to talk with you. I need to talk to you about them fancy gloves you're wearing. See how good they are.
What is that? The Apis Tacticals?
I guess is what they are.
Yeah, they're pretty nice gloves. They are. They're nice
Mike,
gloves.
You have to unmute yourself, Mike.
Bumped up my finger. I've got a pair of those. I really like them.
Well, I got these regular goatskin gloves here, and yes, the Apis Tactical. And I'm out there, and they're full of honey or nectar, I'll say, and they're slick, and they get filled with that, and they kind of stretch, and I'm pulling them down like this to have more dexterity, and I'm like, this is a pain. And I've been watching different ones that have those Apis Tactical, because I looked at them and I looked at the price. I said, I don't think so. And but then I got to look at them here lately, and the dexterity is there from what I can see of them.
So I'm wearing mine.
Put them in hot water and wash them in hot water. Don't put any detergent or anything in them, Charlie. And then sit them in the sun, let them dry out.
Yeah.
And then in the palm, put a little bit of saddle soap in the palm of each glove, and put them on your hand and work them around, and they're fine. They'll shrink back to where they were when you bought them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're medium.
I'll tell you, you take a pair of gloves like that and you get them good and wet, and you wear them till they're dry.
Yep, that'll work too.
Well, I brought them in here tonight. They were soppy. They were all sticky, icky, and I'll just put them in the sink, and I sit there and wash my hands like that with the gloves on. Yeah. And I put a little bit of I got some soap. I did put some soap on it. But
hey, so I'm looking at something on my phone that popped up about 3 hours ago. Guess it's their brand new. The thing that Rob's been teasing over at Robbie's.
What is he teasing over there?
I'm just looking at the advertisement for it. So apparently you can send them your wax, or maybe they have an option to do it from them too. They're selling a fully drawn comb for mediums made out of pure beeswax.
Who's doing this?
Well, Robbie.
I guess I'll have to call Rob up and find out.
Is that somebody else is selling comb that's already or selling foundation? It's got drawn comb on it.
Well, this is the foundation and comb and everything is made out of pure your beeswax. There's no plastic in it. It's
what you're talking about, Will, comes from Better Bee.
Yes, that sounds right.
It's not worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'll put it that way.
I've heard that before. The juice isn't worth
these are supposedly fully drawn with pure wax, but it's advertised like you send your wax in. I'm not sure. You have to go to their site and really look at it, but they've got a few close-ups. I don't know. It's called Ready Comb. They trademarked it. So.
I don't know.
Don't know how that works. But.
Rob's got a new injection molder, so maybe that's what it's going to.
I don't know, man. Injection molding wax is that's a whole thing.
That's a whole different thing too.
Yeah, you can silicone mold wax pretty easily.
I don't know.
That might be what he's doing.
I don't know. He's trying to do a lot of different things, but
let's see if
I mean, he's trying to do the right things, and that's the good part about it.
I don't know. Can't find anything else on the site about it. So they might take some pre-orders Friday.
Well, I don't have enough, wax to do that kind of stuff. You'd have to buy
Yeah.
one of them 40-pound boxes from Bob Benny or somebody like that.
And who knows? It could have a plastic base, and it's your general commercial. It's so vague, you can't really tell anything.
Yeah.
So Bill, I was surprised all the comb in those packages, and
Yeah.
then I'll tell you the majority of the cans were all but empty.
Yeah, those cans that I pulled out last week, they were all but empty.
Yeah. Now they were packaged up Thursday.
We got them on Tuesday.
Okay.
They went down, drove down Sunday. They helped him shake bees Monday morning, and they loaded him up 3:00 Monday afternoon, and he was out of there by 4, and he came up the road, and he still didn't get to us until noon because he had to stop. So.
Yeah, well, I waited till Sunday to put them in after getting them Thursday, which was probably a little bit long, but
Yeah, it was.
But everything worked out. I'm pretty pleased so far. Now we'll see how the queens get accepted and see what they look like here in a week.
Yeah, I'm just overall I'm pretty pleased with the packages we got this year. Wildwood wants to know if the ready comb is wax or plastic. I saw the email today from Rob. That's what we were just talking about. Wildwood, we don't know if it's plastic or wax. They want your wax, so I'm wondering if they're going to draw it out for you.
Yeah, the ad looks like the cells are drawn out with wax. Just you can't tell if there's a plastic base, and they're doing the cleaning for you.
I'm on their
Man, I figured you'd have to have a plastic base since you can't like put it in and like wire it like a sheet. Something has to hold it in place. So maybe instead of that plastic drawn out that was really bad, they're just drawing up pure wax somehow.
Well, it's like the ready comb from is it ready comb or better comb from Better Bee? It's all synthetic wax. It's not pure beeswax. It's synthetic.
Is there a plastic foundation on that, or is it all just strictly drawn?
It's synthetic wax on the stuff from Better Bee.
Well, Rob's advertising like send them your wax, so maybe it's if you have enough to send them, they'll charge you to do the process.
Yeah.
I don't know. Man, way freight is nowadays. That hopefully you're close.
Charlie, he's over there above Baltimore. Is that where Rob's at?
Yeah, he's about 30 minutes from my house.
Okay.
I know Rob. I could call him up.
But it's Baltimore area, right?
Yeah, he's in White Marsh.
Okay.
Total speculation, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could 3D print this stuff and use the wax as the material.
I don't see what you're
gaining.
No, I don't see the video or anything that you're talking about.
No, he's been quiet. He's been quiet about it.
I just got one of those like targeted ads on Facebook.
Yeah, I got one earlier today.
I
got one from Rob. I just bought one of his vaporizers, and they sent a thing out to, I guess, the customers.
There's a hive and wax questionnaire.
No, he sent something out to some customers, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on his actual site.
Asking, he was basically telling you that you could get on before it was released. He didn't really tell you what it was, but he was just saying to send in wax. So he didn't say anything about what it was. But I think around now he's probably starting to tell people.
Yeah, they're going to open it up for a
I don't know
limited
that I'm
number
going
of
to play in
sales
that.
Friday.
Send him one of those 45-pound blocks of wax and see what he does with it.
Those
Right?
things are valuable.
Oh no, I know they're expensive, but
Yeah, they're expensive and really expensive to ship too.
Oh, okay. Here, somebody asked a question and he clarified a little bit. Said the general concept is beekeepers send in their refined beeswax, and Robbie sends them back wax in a new frame. So they're like making it, drawing it out in a brand new wood frame, and you're buying the frame with your wax made in it. Apparently.
Hmm.
So I guess that'd be more of a summertime. You couldn't really ship it, you wouldn't think, in the wintertime. And just kind of like foundations crack.
Yeah, I'm sure if you shipped it in the winter, it would break all to pieces.
And then you got the problem
That
of
is-
melting in the summer.
yeah, that's one rabbit hole that I'm going to stay out of for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let
Hey,
I'm
Tom
gonna let
and
the bees
Melissa.
do the job.
I have enough distractions right now.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see one up close.
Hmm.
Just a curiosity question. So all you guys that are on here, do you guys do your beekeeping as a business?
I try to.
Well, no, I'm serious. So I'm literally a
I mean,
backyard.
I consider myself, even though I have, let's say, 28 hives, I consider myself a sideliner. My
No,
bees,
whether you
my
no,
bees.
whether you're commercial or
already-
sideliner, I guess what I'm looking at is, have you actually gone through and taken like a tax ID out?
No,
Report this in your income tax. But so I'm not selling anything because I'm not an accountant or anything like that. But as a joke, I asked my accountant, I said, what if I made my beekeeping a business? He said, yeah, let's do it. And I went out and became totally legitimate and got tax ID and everything I needed to become a business. You got to go get a name and all that stuff. And there's a lot of benefits to it. You can, you have to keep track of your income, and you have to keep track of, what you expend or what you spend. But you'd be surprised in the end when you go and, the guy that does my taxes is his friend, so he helps me and advises me on how to run my business, and everything's expensed. So everything I buy for my beekeeping is paid for by my selling of honey and nukes. And I'm a backyard beekeeper. I mean, at the most I've ever had was 20 hives. Last year I was around 15. I'm dealing with some recovery stuff now, so I'm really small now, but it's
well, I
still a
know
business.
like there's some folks here like Flower Street, and they're up where Brian, him and his wife, they do every weekend. They're doing a couple different shows. They're selling running honey and creamed honey and flavored honey and wax and lip balm and every
Yeah,
bee product there is out there.
yeah,
And
no need
yes,
to do
for
that.
them, they're running it as a business because they have to have insurance and all these other different things that you have to go along with it. And he's got about, I think, 75 hives and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, via honeybees, Tom and Melissa, are you setting I mean, they got 150 some hives, I think. I'm not sure whether they're actually have it set up as a business or not, or is he just running it amongst he has his own business on the other side of that.
Yeah, I teach a class, the business of beekeeping.
Okay.
It's a business, and
Yeah.
It's an agricultural business. And like you were saying, everything's a tax write-off. Everything you buy, everything you purchase for the bees, every time you go buy a pair of jeans, a pair of work boots, a t-shirt,
Yep.
it's a tax write-off.
You buy a saw.
And whether you want to be or not, you are in a small business when you become a beekeeper. Because if you sell under 2,500 pounds of honey in Virginia, you sell it under the cottage laws of Virginia. There's no inspection required. You don't have to be inspected by the state. You don't have to be licensed by the state, but yet you have to follow the cottage laws because there's certain things required on the label. Okay? You are supposed to report sales tax. But a lot of people, since it's an agricultural business, include the sales tax in the price of their honey. So that way they don't have to report sales tax.
Yeah, but does Virginia have sales tax on food?
Yes.
They do.
Ouch.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
see, we
Connecticut,
do not.
Connecticut does not.
Unless it is an agricultural product.
Well, I mean, here in Maryland, there's no tax on food unless you like a
Like you're a
restaurant
restaurant,
or
yeah.
restaurant or something like that.
Yes. But see, now in Virginia, I don't know how many other states do this, but Virginia considers honeybees as livestock. So it is a true agricultural business. When you put those two hives out there, that's considered an apiary. You are a bee farmer. You can file a Schedule F with the IRS. There is no amount of land requirement to file a Schedule F.
So
Interesting. So Connecticut, we don't have to follow cottage kitchen for honey and maple syrup, or maple. But we do have to. Oh, and our honey is not taxable. It's a food product. So I'm surprised that Connecticut's not taxing the crap out of us for something. But the other side of it is, doing the business thing, like you were saying, everything is an expense and all of the income. So we pay a Connecticut income tax. So if I sell wax, there's tax. I collect tax on that. When I sell nukes, I collect tax. Now, you were saying before, and I do this for my customers, I just included the cost. So when I declare my sale, I subtract out the tax, and that's what my sale is. I just do some math so I can round things off for my customers.
Mm-hmm.
Being a small business, it's not hard for me to do. If I was big, it might be tough. And but it started off where it was hard for me to sell honey. The nukes was they were getting kind of slow, but now I can't produce enough honey. People are, and I sell out my door. I don't go to fairs or markets or any of that stuff. Because as soon as you go to a market, a lot of these places want you to have insurance.
Yeah.
For that market. You have to pay for a table at the market. So when these people are doing that and all those products you were talking about, that gets crazy trying to take care of everybody. I keep it really simple. I sell two sizes, 12 ounces and 5-pound bottles. I dabble with creamed honey. And the reason I do it is because people want to pay crazy money for it. And the other one is cut comb. I've probably produced, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 cut combs. They're 4x4s. And I'll get a customer that'll buy 5 of those things for $25. I mean, $20 a piece. and then all of a sudden I get people calling me up going, do you have any more? So it is a crazy business once you get out there. Now, one of my best advertising is all this crap that's on social media about fake honey. It sells so much of my honey because, I advertise raw honey. And it's amazing what it's done for honey sales, at least as a small beekeeper. Now, I feel sorry for these big guys that are selling their honey for what, about $3 a pound or something. I think I was watching Bob Biddy the other day.
They're wholesaling it to their packers.
Yeah, I'm like, God, that's painful. I'm discounting my 5-pound bottles for, I'm selling them for $45. And when I started doing that, I was feeling guilty, but because I can go to Costco's and find whatever the heck that stuff is for like $14. But
What in the world?
Yeah, what happened?
You pushed something there, Bill.
I did something.
Did you see DC's bees? The FDA has now okayed synthetic honey imports. I've been starting to see that advertised on Facebook.
Yeah, that hit today.
Yeah, I saw something about that. But you know what? That only helps people like myself that much more. People are terrified to go buy honey at the grocery store now.
Well, I tell them about that. I give them the pitch about, yeah, you're buying that Chinese honey over there. And I said, and I asked them, I said, do you look at the back of the bottle? Do you look where the origin of that honey came from? No. I said, try that. You're going to find it's going to come from India, Central America, Argentina.
Yep.
It might say it was bottled in Canada, but it didn't come from there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
and when I say that, and then they open their eyes up, and tell them how China is going around the curfew about them not selling honey in the United States, but they'll sell it to India and Argentina and all these other places. Yep. And you're actually indirectly buying Chinese honey.
Yep. Yeah, you are.
And I just saw something where China actually, so whether China's making fake honey or not, let's not debate that. But what China is doing is they're subsidizing their beekeepers to help them offset the cost of their honey so that they can underprice their honey when it comes to the American market. So we don't stand a chance because our government's not helping us with that.
No.
But,
if you want to buy cheap honey, you're not going to buy any from me.
No,
you're not going to buy any from me either.
That's good.
Quality
that's
raw
good.
product for this amount of money, and if you want to buy it, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. No,
I'm like you, Kirk. I mean, I kind of have a storefront here with the mill, and I live in an area that I've got people just stop in to get honey just for that, or they come in and they got lumber and they'll get a bottle of honey, and I have no problem selling everything I produce. And like you say, I don't have time to go to some farmer's market and waste my half day.
No, it's way too much time. And so literally all my sales are literally out of my house. I don't like to advertise that on the internet, but here I am doing it right now. Right. But the funny thing is like you were saying, Charlie, about you tell your customers, I can't tell you how many customers tell me about the fake honey. And that's why they're at my doorstep.
Right.
And
Nancy there. Now, Nancy, she's doing honey for a job and she goes to a lot of markets, but that's what she likes to do, or that's what she's, I'll say,
this was a total side thing for me. I'm retired now, but when I got into this, it was a side thing that, I'd go out there in my backyard and do my bee thing. And then all of a sudden I ended up with 200 pounds of honey. Then I ended up with 300 pounds and 400 pounds started to be about my sweet spot for what I had. And, I literally sold out of my honey about a month ago.
Yeah.
And people were like, so will you have honey next week? Like, doesn't work that way. It is amazing how I'll say, ignorant the customers are as to what the bees are doing and how they do it and all that stuff. But
Yeah, I
I
get
talk
that.
to them. I
Peop-
talk to them and I try to educate them.
People are very disconnected when it comes to any type of farm or how things are produced, whether it's any type of food or even with dry lumber. I says, it takes a year for that board to get to that shelf. Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I said, you just don't saw the log and make a piece of furniture out of it. And there's a 10 to 12-month process before you can use that board. And it's the same thing with bees. Well, when what's the bees do during the wintertime? Hibernate? I says, yeah. And then, well, when does honey come in? I says, you only got 3 months out of the year, 3 or 4 months at the most. And I said, think people, blooms. That's when bees make honey, is when a particular plant is blooming.
Yep.
And it only lasts for so long.
Yeah.
But the American public have been so far disconnected from where their food comes from and all this other stuff. I mean, girls used to, their mothers used to teach the young girl, and the grandmother used to teach the young girl on how to can. Now they go to night school at the community college to learn how to can food, because that generation said, I'm not doing that anymore. I did it when I was a kid and I don't want to do it anymore. I'll just go to the grocery store and buy it. And that whole generation quit that.
Yeah, that's a lost art.
Well, it's not totally lost, but I mean, well, Bill, I think your wife actually teaches that.
She teaches canning.
And what I'm getting at is that now you've got this whole new lifestyle group out there called the homesteaders.
Yep.
And they're going back to canning and gardening and, going to try to have an old milk cow. Like, it's like, people, you can go to the store and buy a gallon of milk a heck of a lot cheaper than you can pull with a milk cow. And they got chickens, and then some of them try to use bees. Well, then they find out they fail within 2 years with bees because they don't put the necessary work into it and the study behind it, because bees are difficult to keep alive. We all know that here. You got to be on top of it, and you got to constantly go to seminars and read up on things to see what's happening. And at least that's what I've had to do.
See, I had a wholesale customer call me today, and I went to his place of business, and he says, what's going on with this honey? It's turning white. It's getting hard. I said, well, that's a good thing, because that's telling you it's real honey. Oh, I said, all honey will do that. It's what it naturally does. I said, where are you storing it at? Oh, in the walk-in. He had it in a walk-in refrigerator. So,
who's storing this?
One of my wholesale customers.
Oh, you mean in a store?
Yeah.
Oh,
and I said, you
a
can't store it in there.
Pretty cool. A lot of stores are actually pretty cool. I mean, the temperature wise.
Yeah, but he's putting in a refrigerator and
he's putting it in a walk-in refrigerator.
Well,
and I said, you can't put it in there because it's going to do this. It's going to crystallize faster. Yep. He says, well, don't you have honey that doesn't crystallize? I said, no, I don't sell fake honey.
Didn't you tell him that it isn't necessary to refrigerate? It does not go bad.
Yeah. I've had customers come to me and they're going, I want to buy your raw honey because I bought this other honey and it crystallized, so I threw it out. And I'm like, well, you probably had real honey and all you had to do is warm it up, but I'll sell you some more. Another quick story is there's a florist around here, and they make flower baskets with all kinds of little things in there, and people pay crazy amounts of money for these things, and they wanted little jars of honey. So I sold them a bunch of jars of honey. And I went over there like a couple months later, and they still had these things on the shelf, and they were crystallized. Now, I walk into this florist. It was a little tiny shop, and the place is freezing. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we shut off the heat at night every night to keep the flowers, cool and all that." And I'm like, "Well, you can't store honey in here because it's going to crystallize." And it's like, I really don't want to sell you honey because your customers are going to buy this and say this honey's garbage. But
Wow.
it's funny that people really have a lot of misconceptions as what's going on with crystallized honey.
Yeah.
They don't know. They just
No.
don't know.
No.
I tell them you got to warm it up. I said, do you understand why it's crystal? Was it going to crystallize? I said, yeah, you want it to crystallize. I said, that tells you it's real honey.
Yeah.
I said, do you understand the concept behind that? No. I said, it because you got microscopic pollen particles in the honey, which your sugar crystals will attach to. I said, you ever, when you're young, put rock candy on a stick or on a piece of string? Yeah. I said, well, it's the same principle. I said, it grows on the sugar crystals grow on the pollen particles within the honey and all that. And like like we always been saying here, you got to tell them to warm it up. I said, I said, you can put it in a microwave, but then you kind of kill the enzymes and stuff. I'd rather, if you put it in warm water, not boiling water, but warm water that you can stick your hand in and let it sit there for 30 seconds and not burn your fingers. I says, it will, decrystallize over 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how bad it is. If it's just murky looking, about 15, 20 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
But if it's a solid, then it's going to take a long time.
So do you guys struggle with your honey crystallizing much? And the reason I'm asking that question,
After it's bottled or while we're storing it?
after it's bottled, because
Oh yeah, in the winter.
yeah, my honey rarely does crystallize. I don't know if it's, it's got to be the plants that my bees are foraging off. And
Well,
I have no
depends
idea
on
what they're
the-
getting.
Yeah, if it
How you store it,
crystallizes
too.
quick, it depends on how high the sugar content is. The higher the sugar content, the quicker it will crystallize.
Exactly.
So if it's not, but that's why I have a bottling tank with water jacket. Keeps
Yeah.
everything nice and warm.
Nice and evenly heated and everything else in that bottling tank. And I keep the bottling tank full. And I have a warming cabinet sitting in my showroom. I keep it set at 85 degrees. And honey just stays perfect.
And then I also, like Clay was talking there, I got a video on, I got a hot box and I took an old refrigerator, take everything out of it, shelving. I can put 3 buckets in there, one bucket on top of another bucket, as long as it's a good sturdy, but one of them 90 millimeter buckets, and the other bucket off to the left. And I got a heat lamp in there, and I've got a Inkbird controller, and I keep it. You keep it about 110 degrees in there in the environment, and have a fan, and it blows the hot air around and keeps the honey right around 90 degrees. 85, 90 degrees, and it won't crystallize. It's easy to work with. And then I have a Max Ant bottling tank with water jacket in it, and it'll hold 300 pounds. And I keep that, well, not completely full, but try to. And that I looked at that as a storage facility that I can bottle easily and quickly and conveniently, but it also keeps my honey from, I can have that much honey that's not crystallized. It's just right.
Yep.
And you don't want to heat your honey up too hot. I learned with that if you got up to, let's say, 100 degrees, it comes out like water and it bubbles like water.
Yeah.
You have all these air bubbles in your bottle. So you keep it down around 85 to 92, 90 degrees, somewhere
Yep.
in there. It's just warm enough to where it comes out thick and it goes into your bottle, and there's none of that cavitating of the air in there. You might have a bubble, air bubble here and an air bubble there, 2 or 3 of them, maybe at the most, if any. And you don't have all that foam around the top and stuff like that. And it works out perfect. But
Yeah.
keeping the buckets from being crystallized, the hot box is the way to go.
Yep.
That was the first thing I built to try to. That's better than putting it in a water bath.
Yeah.
And having to work with it, and inconvenience and it's just like when I first started out, I should have had this darn bottling tank 10 years ago. It was like when I first saw a Maxan, I think a 16-gallon one was $1,200 at the time. And I'm like, what are you going to spend $1,200 to bottle honey? Why would you want to do that when you got a bucket and a damn honey gate and you can just do the same? Well, once you get one, then you realize the valve on there and having that honey at the perfect temperature all the time. And it's just so more convenient. And people say, well, about the money and everything. I said, hey, take everything when it comes to beekeeping. How many pounds of honey did that cost you? Not dollars, but pounds. So, it's like we were talking about Robbie's vaporizers, and somebody was complaining, you're looking at, what is it, Bill, $450 for that unit?
Yeah.
Well, that's around 35 or 40 pounds of honey. That's less than the amount of honey on a normal honey. One hive can pay for that tool. One hive.
Totally agree with that logic. And
I mean, most people, they look at the dollars, and I says, what will the hive, one hive's, you'll actually make a little bit of money off the hive, plus actually pay for that tool. And, and then I looked at, one season, if you make enough honey sales, and it pays for all these tools. You can't buy everything at one time, but you can.
But I tell people too,
take the money and reinvest it into your business each year.
There you go.
Buy one product or 2 products, depending on how much you want to spend.
Yep. Yeah, because I tell people, I said, think of the money you spent when you had to replace all those dead bees.
Yeah.
And so a big part of your bee business is keeping your bees alive. And if you're keeping bees alive and you're selling bees to other beekeepers, because people really struggle with keeping their bees alive, you're self, supporting your hobby business, whatever you want to call it. But being self-sufficient is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Tom and Melissa, you're right. The no drip valve is actually a 1 drip valve. There's, when you let it go, it goes drip. That's where, if you ever watch Max Hant, look at this valve we invented and all that kind of stuff. Every time he gets done filling a bottle, rake it across with the top of that bottle, and then it didn't drip. But yeah, I don't know. You talk about a hobby and the beekeeping, and I says, well, you got other people out there to buy a boat. You make any money riding a boat? I don't think so.
No.
You keep pouring money in that hole in the water all the time.
Yep.
You're always doing something to that boat to keep it shiny or get rid of corrosion, or you got to sit there and just scrape the bottom of that boat, put that there, some kind of paint on the bottom of it, that black part.
I bet you if you have a boat, you don't have any paying customers that are willing to give you money to go ride on your boat with you.
No,
you don't.
They're not going to pay for the gas because you get 2 or 3 miles to gallon out of a boat.
It doesn't even work that way. It's like, gallons per hour or whatever. But yeah, I have a boat and I've never gotten any money out of that damn thing.
Isn't a boat a hole in the water where you throw money? I think that's the definition.
Yeah, that's what
hole
boat
in the
stands
water, you
for.
just keep throwing money in it.
And
Yep.
the and the
Chews it up,
best two
spits it out the back.
the best 2 days are the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yes. Yep.
So I've got a heated tank, and I bought a bottling machine to go on it. And I can bottle a couple of 100 pounds of honey in under an hour. And I just recently bought another tank and another bottling machine. So I've got 2 now.
Now, about how many pounds of honey do you do a year?
But 200 pounds in under an hour.
No, a year.
Oh, I don't know. I've never used a bottling machine before. So this is a new venture that we're going into.
Do you know about how much you collect each year? for
Last
honey?
year I collected 600 pounds.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm still being cheap. I'm still using the bucket with the gate valve, and I'll bottle 20 or 30 of these bottles at a time, take a break. It's a long drawn out process, but half the fun, I guess, too. But yeah, as a beekeeper, and as your business, you got to decide, what makes you money or makes convenience. Like the hive
You gotta
lifting.
make it life easier.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Like the hive lifting device. I mean, that takes a few pounds of honey to pay for that, but
Yeah,
you know what? You're not breaking your back either.
That's right. It was $1,650, and you can't fix your back for that either.
No, you can't.
Oh.
So
Yeah, Nancy's going to bed.
yeah,
it's getting late.
10:30. Nancy's got to go to bed.
She's usually going to bed by 9:00.
Yeah.
But
So
go ahead, Bill.
it's almost 10:30 here. I've got to get up in the morning and go to North Carolina to pick up an extractor, a large extractor for somebody. I sold one this past week. So I'm glad to see everybody out here tonight and participating and commenting and asking questions. Nancy, I'm glad you made it till 10:30. So don't forget Wednesday night at 6:30 for Nancy. She's on from 6:30 to 8:30 on Wednesdays. Charlie's on from 8 till whenever on Friday nights.
Usually I try to cut it off at 10:30.
Yep.
And then
So-
we have the green room chat after that.
Sometimes it goes on till wee hours in the morning.
Yeah, till midnight sometimes, Well,
Yep.
that's when you feel bad all day Saturday.
I think it's been a good chat tonight. We've got 70 people in here. We had as much as 79 to 80. So if you enjoyed yourself, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It helps us all out in the long run with the likes and the subscriptions. So everybody, I will see you Wednesday night with Nancy and then Friday night with Charlie. So y'all have a good week and be careful. Good night.
See y'all later.